The Welcome to the Show podcast is independently produced by me, Manny Gomez, and CT. Help people find our show by taking 2 minutes to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you. What's up, everybody? It's the Welcome to the Show podcast. This is part 2 of our Screwball special, a re-releasing of 2 interviews we did surrounding the Screwball movie, which is available now on Netflix. Again, Screwball is a story about the biogenesis scandal. In part 1, you listened to the entire interview we did with Billy Corben a couple of months ago. This is part 2, an interview we did with Porter Fischer, who is the whistleblower that basically unraveled this whole story and made it possible for us to know what was going on in Miami at the time of the biogenesis scandal. This is Porter's first podcast he's ever done, so the beginning of it might sound a little iffy. You may not know what's going on, but eventually things start to warm up, and Porter's very generous with his time and his honesty. And, you know, we thank him for coming on the show. So without further ado, here's Porter Fischer in part 2 of the Screwball special. What's up, everybody? It's the Welcome to the Show podcast, brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/welcome to the show to get a 30-day free trial and a free audiobook download. That's audibletrial.com/welcome to the show. For those of you listening at home, that's the 4th time we attempted that opening, and we're keeping that shit. Hell yeah. What's up, CT?
What's up, man? How's it going?
I'm good, man. So, yeah, we're going to talk to, in a little while, you're going to hear an interview we did with Porter Fischer. We just want to kind of give you a preview of the interview and talk about why we decided to interview Porter Fischer. So let me start off with this. So for those of you who don't know, Porter Fischer is best known at this point for his involvement in the whole biogenesis scandal. The whole thing is detailed in grave detail in Screwball, the Billy Corben movie. If you haven't done so already, check out our interview with Billy Corben. It was awesome. So anyway, Porter Fischer, basically, we know about biogenesis because of Porter Fischer. Essentially, what happened was he was a client of Tony Bosch's. At the time, he thought that Tony Bosch was a legit doctor. Turns out Tony Bosch is a fake doctor. He turned into an investor later on. He invested $4,000 in Tony Bosch's business at a time where Tony Bosch was hitting rock bottom, and Tony Bosch didn't pay his debts. So what did Porter Fischer do? He decided to go into the biogenesis office in off hours, and he took some documents from Tony Bosch's filing system or whatever kind of system he had. From there, he decided to take it home, make copies of everything, and from there, the shit hit the fan. It got in the hands of a Miami News Times reporter, and got in the hands of the Carbone family. It got in the hands of Alex Rodriguez. It got in the hands of everybody at that point. I know that I'm missing some details there. I know that he tried to return the files, and they were eventually stolen out of his car or something like that. So that's why we're talking to Porter Fischer. This is the first time, aside from Screwball and from stuff that you've heard in print, where we're letting him tell his side of the story, unfiltered, unedited. He's starting this thing called Porter Project, and one of his missions is to come clean. So we're naming this episode "Come Clean" because this is Porter Fischer coming clean. He's giving it to you. And I don't know if you have any reactions about the interview, CT.
Yeah, I mean, first reaction after the interview was like I had a different perspective of Porter Fischer compared to what the opinion that I had formed of him in the Screwball movie. And by the way, the Screwball movie has all the details that you need to know about this whole biogenesis scandal, and it's a great movie. So if anybody listened to our interview with Billy Corben or is going to listen to this interview with Porter Fischer, just make sure, connect all the dots by watching the Screwball movie. And that, my initial reaction was just that, I respected Porter Fischer a lot more after we interviewed him than from watching the movie.
Yeah, I agree. And, watching them. So when you watch a movie like Screwball, the thing about a movie like Screwball is that it doesn't necessarily play like a documentary. Like, that you're dealing with real people, but the way the story unfolds and how absurd the story is, you start to look at it more like not a nonfiction, like a fictional story. I don't know if you felt the same way, CT.
Yeah.
But I felt like, oh my God, these characters are nuts. You know what I mean? Like,
you almost couldn't believe it.
Exactly. At every turn, there was something you couldn't believe. So you kind of you forget that these are people that are in front of the screen. And I held an opinion of Porter Fischer prior to talking to him that perhaps he might not have appreciated. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I said some things about him, not necessarily in public. There were some things I said in the Billy Corben interview that might have been on the surface or whatever. But I thought the guy was a moron, and I thought the guy was not using his brain or whatever. But then after talking to him, he's completely changed my opinion of him. To me, the way I see Porter Fischer now, and I hope that this is your takeaway from him when you listen to this episode. But of course, I don't want to sway your opinion. Your opinion is yours. You choose how you view Porter Fischer. I view him as a very commendable figure. Like, I wish, at least the way he depicts himself, because again, I've only talked to him over the phone and for this interview. He's a very righteous person, and he wants to do what is right, and that seems like that's his code. And according to him, he's been offered money for a lot of information and stuff, and he said no. He didn't get any money for any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Aside from the $4,000 that was owed to him. So I just wanted to get that out there and be honest about the way I felt and how I feel now. And I honestly, I hope that Porter Fischer, that this can somehow help to get him out of this hole. He describes himself as being in a hole since this happened. I hope that somehow this can get him out of it, and that people will accept him for who he is more now. I know that sounds like sappy and shit, but I'm just trying to be honest.
Yeah, it was a good interview. I was gonna say that he definitely brought a different energy to, compared to the people that we've interviewed before. And I'd be happy to have him back on the show as well.
Yeah, and by the way, some of the things he did aren't redeemable too. Like we said, he did break into not break in. He had keys to the place. He did go into Tony Bosch's office, and he did take records without, letting anybody know. That isn't, if he thought that Tony Bosch was a legitimate doctor, at that point, maybe he figured it out. There are such things as HIPAA violations. You're not supposed to take patient records and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So he did do some things that are not forgivable, but in the end, his goal was to do the right thing. At least that's the way I feel at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any more reactions, Sete?
No, not any more reactions. I think everything is in the interview, and yeah.
Word. I agree. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Without further ado, here's Porter Fischer.
CT, let's talk about Alex.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. What is it? I mean, besides his play on the field, you really can't refute. The guy is a very, very talented ball player, and I've said since day one that this wasn't, Porter against Alex and something like that. He was just collateral damage. He was a patient of Tony Bosch's that just happened to be the biggest, brightest star in the batch. And, I didn't walk up and go, hey, buddy, look at Alex. I just walked up and said, hey, look at Bosch. And everybody, all those ball players and all those other people, and there were people from other sports, and there were other people, high-profile people in Miami, judges and police officers and so on and so forth, and children that fell under that. But my focus was on Bosch, not his patients or his clients. and Alex just happened to be one of them. And so when people say, hey, what do you think about Alex? I don't have a whole lot, to say against Alex, because I think he's a very, very talented ball player. I don't necessarily agree with the way he works the media, and some of the stuff he did during this whole, saga was, I guess, pretty underhanded, but it was PR driven, and he was kind of trying to save his own skin, But you're a big fan of Alex's and his marriage to J-Lo, or his engagement to J-Lo, and you're like, oh yeah, Alex is. Besides his filling the play, is there anything you see redeeming about his personality?
First of all, let me thank you for listening to our show, because I had forgot that we even spoke about the J-Lo marriage. So thank you.
Yeah, it was prefaced by Crazy Canseco with all his, and that fizzled out real fast.
All right. Well, for me, with A-Rod is just, he was my favorite baseball player growing up. As I got older, I noticed that he deserved a lot of the hate that he got, but he still took on a lot of the hate throughout his whole career. I would say that even he probably has a bunch of fans, but the majority of them were probably just wanting to see him fail. And again, he deserves a lot of it. But I even think back to this whole biogenesis scandal, even though he's probably the biggest name, he wasn't the only one, guilty of anything in this whole thing. And then, he still came out. He didn't try to hide. And that's a small reason why I like A-Rod.
Yeah, but CT, hold on. He didn't come out, and he did try to hide. That's all he did for this practice.
Yeah.
So he still hasn't admitted to anything. He just said, I made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Unlike his 2009 Katie Kirk interview, he didn't say, yes, I did this, or yes, I did that. Now, he did in DEA and court papers, but he's never come on screen saying, yeah, I did this, I did that.
He never came out and admitted and said, yeah, I did this and that. I did this, I tainted the game of baseball, or however you want to see it. He never came out and said that, but he still stood on the plate, and he's still relevant today. He's still knowing what he did. He's still out there, doing a lot of good things, whether it's a tax write-off or whether he's just doing it to present a good image. He's still doing a lot of good things. And
go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, what I was going to say is you were saying, I think he's kind of turned the corner. And PR-wise, it looks that way, too. The only thing that I think that disappoints me, and because I'm local and because I'm here, that a lot of other than almost nobody else sees, whenever you look at those pictures from UK Mail that it shows J-Lo and A-Rod walking out of a gym. Oh, they just had a great workout together. That's the same gym he was going to before all this, with the same trainer that was supplying and helping him with Bosch to do all this stuff. It's the same environment. So even after everything that he went through, and even after the court, and even after this, and even that, he still hangs out with the same people. So it's that old saying, the company you keep, It's like somebody walks up and goes, oh, hey, you just got busted for tax evasion, so on and so forth, and you go and spend your time, but then all of a sudden you get out and you still use the same accountant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You think, well, this person hasn't learned their lesson. But now, because he's not on the field, you know what I'm saying? But now because he's not on the field anymore, he can't be judged or suspended or, anything for his play on the field. There's no risk to him. He's just going, yeah, I'm back with my old gang. I'm back with my old crew. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, well,
and now he's got Jennifer with him going in the same places. So, maybe she's not as smart as everybody thinks she is.
Here's the thing with A-Rod, and I'm so happy that we're spending this much time on A-Rod because I could talk about this all day. But here's my thing with A-Rod.
Okay.
So it just seems like we were all mad at A-Rod for doing the things he did while he was a baseball player. Nobody gives a shit if he did these things and wasn't playing baseball. And there's a million other baseball players that did the things that he did. Again, he deserved every bit of hate that he got throughout his career. But we literally have baseball players today in the game of baseball that just got busted last year, yet people are welcoming them with open arms. And A-Rod never really got that. Now, that's not the only reason I like A-Rod. I can't put into words why I like A-Rod. It's a childhood thing, and it's grown into a bigger obsession now that I'm older. So I can't really put it into one word. But
right, I get it. It's like my obsession with Brett Favre. I love.
Yeah.
I just love the way the guy played. I like Brett Favre, but there's things out the field that people don't like about Favre. I get what you're saying, and I totally agree about the other players, because that's one thing I was kind of every time when I see like Bartolo Colon, he's everybody's darling. Everybody loves him, but he was on the list, and you never see his name tagged, with the biogenesis thing, and if it is, it's just a blurb. Now, I'm not saying that these guys didn't make mistakes and, they didn't learn their lesson. And again, maybe I'm just saying that because everybody is, in a love fest now with A-Rod. Oh, he's the best this. Oh, look how cute he is. Look at him on social media. Oh, look at him and Jennifer. But he's made a fantastic recovery PR-wise. And to be honest, he actually is a good analyst on Fox. He really is, But I just think it's kind of funny that all that stuff is just gone, and you still see people walk up. And I was just reading a review the other day about a new movie that Mel Gibson is in. And it's always still tagged like, he's a great actor, but blank, 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 blank. Now, I totally agree with the Mel Gibson criticism, but I think it's funny that some people never get past the criticism, and A-Rod seems that it's not even in his past.
Let me ask you a quick. Let me ask you a quick question, and then we're gonna delve back because I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. Okay. In a lot of ways, I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think that A-Rod comes out of this looking good in any way, shape, or form. I do think that baseball came after him, especially because he was such a good player and he kind of became the face of the PED scandal. But now that he's retired. Yeah, now that he's retired and he's not affiliated with Major League Baseball as a player any longer, I think he's still an advisor for the Yankees. He still announces games and stuff. Do you, as a person who was also one of Tony Bosch's clients, so I'm going to assume that through him you must have taken some sort of performance enhancer, HGH something. I'm not sure what you took.
Sure.
Do you think under the care of a professional physician or a doctor, that these types of supplements are okay to take? Does that make sense? That question?
No. Here's the thing. I totally understand what you're saying, and here's the thing. I hopefully I'm explaining this correctly. When you look at the whole landscape of Tony's setup, if you have all these ball players now, you make well. Let me sidebar. Look at Robert Kraft. He goes to a rub and tug play at a strip mall. You have billions and billions of dollars, but if that's what you want, why would you go to a strip mall?
Exactly.
Now, with that little piece of information, you're Alex. You've got millions and millions of dollars. Okay. And if you wanted to delve into how to make yourself a better, faster, stronger ball player, why would you go to a strip mall across from University of Miami to somebody with no real credentials that had no real and you can't use Manny. Had no real success doing it because in the movie, and Tony will do it 10 times over in his interviews, that he's, a master at this, a doctor at this, and he can make magic happen. There's nothing that Tony Bosch knows that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. It's not as hard as he makes it out to be. Okay. Now, if you were like a UM player and somebody said, hey, go across the street, go to Dr. Tony Bosch, you'd walk in the door just like I did, and say, hey, I want to improve my play, so on and so forth. He goes, don't worry, so on and so forth. I can make this happen. I'm walking in there as a 40-something-year-old man, okay? And in Miami and probably in sports radio up there and all over the place, you hear about, low testosterone, be a champ in the gym, be a champ in the bedroom, get back your youth, so on and so forth. That's what I was. So that's how I got started with it. And guess what? It worked. But my personal opinion is that if that stuff kind of is going to be able to continue in clinics and stuff like that, that it should be done by your primary physician, not these dime stores, stuff in strip malls. There's nothing in the state of Florida, maybe other places, that would prevent you, me, and Manny to open up a wellness clinic in West Palm Beach and then put an ad in Craigslist for an active physician to review blood work. We'll pay you $1,000 a week. We'll all be swimming in money. That doesn't make it ethically correct.
Right.
And then when you have kids coming in there and parents and coaches bringing underage kids in there because their kids want to get an edge. Look, that's where I had the real problem. I didn't have a problem with 40-year-old guys walking in there. And to be honest, I didn't have a problem with the cops going in there. I thought it was odd that the cops are going in there saying my testosterone's low, but they walk out looking like the Incredible Hulk. Billy brought up the point about these guys being public safety and maybe being quick on the trigger or quick to use unnecessary force that I didn't really ever think of. But he's got a great point. My problem was with the kids, okay? And my problem was with people like Bosch, just being a little con man to people. Baseball players, you make millions and millions and millions of dollars. My problem is like, look, guys, if you're supposed to wear the right uniform, if you're supposed to wear a certain type of shoe, if you're not supposed to drink milk, then to make those millions of dollars, don't do it, And if you're just going to cheat the system just to make yourself a little bit better, and all of a sudden you get to cheat the system and get your hand slapped for 50 games, but it gets you a $40 million contract or an extension with another team for 3 more years, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Do I believe back to your question, I got sidetracked, guys. I'm sorry. All these players, do I think that they thought they were doing something from a legitimate doctor and that they thought they were receiving real treatment from a real nutritionist or a real physician? Maybe some, maybe normal people like me. But professional baseball players have agents, have other people looking out for them. There might have been a percentage, but people like Alex don't walk in there blind. He knew what he was doing, And if you look back at all the different stories that are written about this, there were agencies. I think it was the Levinsons that knew what was going on and referred clients to Bosch. So.
Okay, so all right, so let's rewind a little bit and let's just get to know you a little bit, Porter. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Were you born and raised in Florida?
Born and raised in Miami. I went to Epiphany High School, went to Christopher Columbus. It's actually the same high school that Bosch went to, and Alex went there for a year. Ended up going to Florida. Alex was there for 1 year. He was.
I'm sorry. Did you ever run into Tony Bosch before this whole biogenesis thing kicked off?
No, actually, he was the grade above me, and in conversations when I first met him, he knew my older sister.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
Small world.
I didn't know who he was, but he knew my older sister. Which is which is odd. Again, Miami is one of those kind of major cities that's a very small town.
Okay.
That like 2 degrees separation.
I see. Okay.
He ended up going to Florida State. Not a sports enthusiast nut, but kind of was in the restaurant industry, and I got into the marketing industry, and I was pretty successful at it. One of those kind of go-getters and stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the movie, Billy makes fun of it, and some of the papers make fun of it. And as a joke on my Facebook, I put, when it said occupation, I put professional tanner. Because I thought it was funny. Like, people say, professional skateboard, professional surfer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm a professional tanner. It was a joke. But what's funny, but more funny than that, is Major League Baseball thought that was my real profession. And they started freaking out. They started going to every tanning salon around, started shaking the trees on lotion places, trying to find me because they thought I was some kind of professional at this. And so it kind of caught on. But it was one of those kind of things. It's just like, people make a big deal out of it, but just like, somebody, goes gets their nails done once a week, or, somebody's a gym rat and they're in there doing 2-a-days for 6 days a week and they're down to 6% body fat, that kind of thing. I liked tanning salons. I would go there 4 times a week and either do, it's what I enjoyed. It was like a hobby for me.
Okay.
But,
and
it's like,
Do you
in watching the movie, I guess what stood out to me about that is that Florida, the Sunshine State, you wonder. I grew up in New York City and then moved up to New Jersey while in high school. And I don't know if you've ever watched like the Jersey Shore or any of those shows like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, those guys are
yeah.
exactly. They're notoriously known for tanning a lot. And if you go to Jersey, in northern New Jersey, there's a ton of tanning salons, and I get it because there's winter and stuff. But in the movie they depict you as someone who's addicted to tanning or obsessed with it. Would you say that you're addicted to tanning?
I would say I like it more than the normal guy, but
Okay.
I don't think I'm addicted to it by any means. But again, that's all perception. Do I have a better tan than most people? Yeah. Am I walking around like the Situation? No. You know, I'm not. You know, gym, tan. You know, laundry. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing one of the Q&As, though, like somebody walks and goes, "Hey, do you still tan?" Like that was the question. I was like laughing, like, "Yeah, I do, but not as much as I used to." You know.
Yeah.
So what do you do today? Like what do you do to keep yourself busy today, or what do you do now?
Well, I work within an event management company situation, and we do sporting events. So I'm still involved in sports. I'm involved mostly in football, but also with soccer.
That's good.
So I'm assuming you watched Screwball, correct?
Oh yeah, I've seen it like 8 times.
Okay.
First time I hated it.
Okay.
First time I saw it, I hated it. I got mad, so I walked out.
Oh, did you? That was my next question. Did you feel like you were depicted fairly in the film?
Well, I'll be honest. When I first saw it, I did. Well, Tim Elfink, who I worked with the story on from the New Times, he met me right before, and he walked up and he was like, "Hey, I just want you to know, Porter, take this with a grain of salt, tongue in cheek. I just want you to relax and just enjoy." And I'm like, "What are you prepping me for?" He's like, "Just relax, just relax." So we started watching the movie, and yes, I saw it. You know, when it first started coming, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's got a comedy aspect to it." You know, the kids who've never met any of us. You know, the actor that portrayed Tony never met Tony. The kid that portrayed me never met me. These kids are being directed to be a little bit over the top, and so on and so forth. And I could kind of see how they could be by the way, you know, and I'm sure you guys are getting this right now. Some people are animated talkers, you know, and so I could see that. But what really started bothering me is every time I saw Tony, he was just yucking it up and laughing and chuckling and ha 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 ha, ho 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 ho. I made money. I did coke. Ha ha ha. They couldn't get me. Ho ho ho. Just like the most unrepentant asshole I've ever seen in my life. And I was getting really, really mad going because I started thinking about, you know, all the shit this guy did and all the shit he put me through and everybody else. And he's just yucking it up, you know? Yeah. And so I was like, okay, stop the movie. I got to go to the bathroom. And they stop the movie. Like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, give me a second. So I walked out and then came back and enjoyed the rest of it. And as I saw it more, I see how it's entertaining. I see the format. I hope that people, I'm one of those guys, I don't know how to do it yet, but I read every review. And when I see the reviews that, ha ha ha, Tony Bosch, fake doctor this guy, and then fake tan guy this guy, but I never see anything about, again, the kids. The kids and the cops are barely touched. And that's, to me, that's the only, everything else about the film was fantastic. I mean, Billy did a good job with them. And actually, this is kind of out of his realm because most of the stuff he does is paint by numbers kind of thing. Show a clip, you know, report on it. Show a clip, you know, dub over it. This is the first time that, you know, it's really like more of an acting kind of comedy thing. But, you know, when you don't see a lot of focus being paid on, you know, why Tony shouldn't be doing what he's doing and why people should walk out for fake doctors, you know, and he doesn't like that term, but fuck him.
Yeah.
You know,
and
sorry,
and
you know,
for us, the audience watching it from the outside looking in, it's an entirely insane situation, but I can't imagine what it must be like to be in your shoes. And I'm assuming here that the reason why it bothers you so much to see Tony Bosch kind of, like you said, chucking it up out there, like as if, nothing ever happened, is that your life must have been turned upside down by this. Is that right? Or am I?
Oh, no, you're 100% on. And the thing is I did say to, somebody else a couple of weeks ago that they're like, well, what are you doing now? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to focus on this or that. But eventually everybody asks me, so how much did you get paid? Where's the money? Oh, who's going to talk to you? Oh, you're going to get paid. Are you going to? And I've never put my hand out. I'm the only person, I think, in the entire story never put my hand out and said, give me money. Mm-hmm. Because to me, nothing I did was about money. It was either about the kids. It was about getting fucked over. It was about, standing up for myself, revenge, however, whatever spin you want to put on it. It was about me, not, it wasn't about the money. Mm. There's aspects about this that I didn't like, only because the whole thing was so lighthearted, and I guess you have to keep that way when you have kids. But at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of funny moments. Mm-hmm. At the time when there was a car chase down Red Road, wasn't put in the film because they said they felt uncomfortable putting kids in a 85-mile-an-hour car chase. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of threats and a whole bunch of stuff, getting dragged into court left and right, so on and so forth. And I'm the little guy. I'm worried about this crime family or this baseball player or MLB. All these other people telling me that you're lucky, you're lucky, you're lucky. Well, I didn't feel so lucky. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to wait and bide my time and try and work out a book myself. So as I walk up and be able to tell this stuff myself. Mm-hmm. And God love the kids, but it won't be very kid friendly.
Yeah.
And so you know what I'm saying?
So Porter, was there anything that you wish that they had besides the car chase? But I mean, was there anything else that you might have left out or that they didn't include, or maybe they chopped it up in a way that you didn't feel like it was portrayed how it should have been?
And look, they said that they did a lot of stuff that, and they researched this as much as they've ever done, because they were dealing with some very litigious people. And I agree with that because you were dealing with MLB and you were dealing with A-Rod. Tony Bosch is not a litigious person. He doesn't have any backbone or any backing to be a litigious person. Some of the stuff that Tony said is only verifiable by Tony. Mm-hmm. There's no reference. Nobody will ever back up what he says. Was it a shock for me to hear that Manny Rodriguez or, Manny Ramirez likes bedtime stories? Yeah. I mean, if you saw the movie, I was like, huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was random.
But do you think in any world, Manny Ramirez put his hand up and goes, yeah, I'll tell the world I like baseball stories and Tony Bosch slept with me. Do you think he ever did that? So the story only comes from Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what
and
you're
when
saying.
he says, and I met some guy and I injected him in the bathroom of Polio Tropical. How is that possibly verified? Did the inject E walk up and said, yeah, he did it to me? No, he didn't. So a lot of what Tony does is half-truths. And he saw this as a promotion for himself. And what's odd is if the FBI really did their job, there'd be a bunch of other names and pharmacies and LabCorp and some other locations in the whole bust. But Tony only copped to what they asked him. He didn't provide any more information. If he would have, so that some other people know, then there'd be a whole lot more information out there. He only copped to what was asked of him. So when he says, it changed my life, and I worked with MLB. MLB, you only worked with what Tony gave you. Mm-hmm.
And they gave Tony a lot of money.
A whole lot of money. And the thing is, if MLB was on the level, there'd be a whole bunch more people. Maybe probably another 15 people with suspensions because of the stuff that was taken out of my car. Yeah. MLB had it, but MLB didn't enlighten the public to other names.
Yeah.
MLB destroyed the whole Department of, Florida Department of Investigations.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like the only person who got, popped for that incident for the stolen documents was that kid. What was his name?
Right. Reggie LaFleur.
Reggie LaFleur. Reggie St. LaFleur. Who, by the way, I've spoken with someone who claims that he had a partner with him at the time of the stolen documents. I don't know if you can confirm that because you were inside at the time that it happened, according to the film, and that partner ended up dead somewhere. Is this true, is this like a rumor?
No. Well, this is what I hear too. Look, I wish I would have seen this happen. A whole lot of things, but this Billy's movie is great. It's fantastic, but I could write a 5-year series on this entire thing. I could sit there and delve into so much stuff and make this a Netflix special, like Game of Thrones. I did hear the same thing. I heard that there was an accomplice to Reggie that afterwards, down the road, he ended up being shot. Now, the circumstances, some people I heard, and this is through Boca State Attorney's Office and through legal channels, because they were talking to me about, now that once Reggie was exposed as being the person, we're talking about punishment or what I was willing to settle on, so on and so forth. So what I was being told probably wasn't the full story. It probably was only what I needed to know. And to be honest, after everything I've seen with this, I wouldn't trust anything in the legal system as far as I could throw it. Yeah. But I did hear that story. I do know, too, that when Reggie first got pinched, that his lawyer was making all sorts of crazy accusations like, this is a good kid, blah, blah, blah. Well, how do we know that Porter Fischer didn't take the stuff himself? And I'm like, I was talking to somebody, they're like, don't even get into a pissing contest with this guy. Well, lo and behold, Reggie's lawyer was paid for by the Carbones.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? That's who was paying his bill. But then once Anthony, the younger Carbone, was getting pinched for an unrelated crime in Boca Raton, where him and Gary Jones were going into some cigar place that Tony owned, and they were trying to move M15s, steroids, and mollies, the lawyer bailed and said, "I'm out," and bailed and just cut the thing off. Then all of a sudden, Reggie wants to make a deal with the state. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny. It's stuff that doesn't get touched on. I think it's funny that in the movie, when it says Dan Mullen had an affair with the nurse from Biogenesis, right?
Yeah.
You follow me so far?
Yes.
Yep. The nurse has a little apple or a little thing on her face. It doesn't show it. Just shows an avatar of a nurse. But that nurse sold her texts from Dan Mullen to A-Rod for $20,000.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's another part of the quote-unquote Florida fuckery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just wondering why she wasn't touched in the whole thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The whole thing is just really, at the time when it was happening and it unfolded, you said to yourself, "This is insane," and I guess this is, I don't know if this is why CT defends A-Rod a little bit, but it almost seemed like A-Rod was just a distraction to the whole thing, just like a big smoke and mirrors to hide everything else that was happening beneath the surface.
That's the thing I've always said. I've never walked up and said. The only thing I ever said, I said it in the USA article, and I said it recently, but for years I never said anything about Alex. The only thing I said about recently was, look, I appreciate what he did. I don't, his bat speed was fantastic. He was good in the field, but the fact that he kept lying to his fans and his friends, he must be some kind of asshole. And that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That I said that, and I'll admit that. And I would think that anybody could agree with me that maybe he was an asshole at the time or an asshole for doing it, but not that. You're right. When you say that with all this craziness going on, it looks like Alex was just doing anything and everything with the whole Ryan Braun thing, with the whole Roy Black PR firm. with buying pizza, you know, and soliciting his own cheering crowd outside of and then going on to the news station. I was hearing that stuff as it was happening, you know, and it just seemed like somebody that was really, really desperate to save his legacy.
Yeah.
And
well, especially,
I'm gonna
go ahead, ZT.
Yeah, 600 something home runs and one of the most prolific hitters ever. I mean, I don't know that I wouldn't do the same thing. But once it came out and he got busted, I probably would have walked up and said, look, I fucked up. I did this. And that's where part of the thing I did with the Porter Project was come clean. I have a little term that says come clean. Mm-hmm. And it's more like, dude, people make mistakes. People screw up all the time. Own it. Come clean. If you're going to come to the sport, come clean. If you're going to go to a relationship, come clean. If you're going to go to a job, come clean. Be yourself. Own what you did. People all make mistakes. I'm no angel. Mm-hmm. You know, in the movie, I'm probably the least dirtiest guy. I might be the dumbest guy, but the least dirtiest guy. Mm-hmm. So I don't, you know, I mean, Alex, what he did, I don't think he's a bad person. I think he's just, when the heat kicks on, I don't think he knows how to navigate himself through it.
Well, I just want to say, Porter, that even though I'm a huge A-Rod fan, trust me, you can say whatever you want. Don't hold back. It's not going to affect me in any way. This is just, it's what it is. I think A-Rod is an asshole, you know, but what can I do, man? You know? You're a fan of a guy.
I'm a huge Pete Rose fan, and all of a sudden I get a bunch of, I always get these little debates on, you know, on Pete Rose and whether he should be here or not, and you know, and everybody's always got something to say, like, hey, if you're going to get on A-Rod, why don't you get on, you know, Ty Cobb, or if you're going to get on this person, why don't you get on that? Everybody's got an argument. Everybody has favorite players, and that's what you know what? That's the fun thing about sports.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing is about sports is people have their favorite teams, and they'll fight with them and they'll love them, and they really never leave you. You know, even if they do something that's kind of questionable, you kind of fight for them. You don't always condone their actions, but you do condone them as somebody you enjoy watching or following. So again, I think some of the best things that Alex could ever do is quit hiding from what he did and turn around. And I don't think he'll ever repair the relationship he had with the Taylor Hooten Foundation. Mm-hmm. Cause he fucked that up twice, 2-3 times. So, and I could feel for that, but I think he could get involved with you know what? Let's go run a 5K, Alex. You know, show I'm not the bad guy. I didn't turn Alex Rodriguez in, you know, mm-hmm. I personally, and I'll say this on the record, with those kind of numbers, I hope one day he does get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Me too.
I hope people like that, and Clemens and Bonds and all of them, yes, it was an error. You know, if he was allowed to get away with it, he did. If they all walked up and said, I made a mistake, but what I did on the field, I think that there's a place for them in the accomplishments of the game. So, Alex, I'm not your enemy. If you want to, you know, if you want to hold something against me, well, then that's your problem, not mine. And that shows more to your character than not mine.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a quick question, Porter. I just want to jump back to Tony Bosch really quick because, you know, he did, you know, at the end of the day, he's responsible for all of this. I wanted to ask you, do you forgive Tony Bosch? And if you don't, what does he need to do to redeem himself in your eyes?
Actually, I don't, because he's doing the same thing.
Okay.
He's doing it now. Tony Bosch is not out of business. And you'll remember this when I said this in a couple of days. Tony Bosch is not out of business. Yeah. Tony Bosch has absolutely no remorse for what he did. And that's what my real problem is. You know, he got slapped on the wrist for something, served a little bit of time at a country club, got paid a bunch of money for it, you know, lived like a rock star. He didn't have to pay his lawyer bills. He didn't have to pay anything. Where was his big payment? His freedom for what, 18 months? And as he said, hanging out, talking with people from Goldman Sachs and talking to other people about quote unquote nutrition, and then getting out and saying, oh, I'm going to talk to kids about nutrition, and then starting up a business again, doing the same exact thing. Where's his remorse?
Is that what's happening with Tony? I'm not sure what's happening with him. What is? I mean, I should ask him
that's
personally if I could.
Huh?
I was gonna say I should, if I could get in touch with the guy, I would ask him personally. But as far as you know, what is he up to now? What is he doing?
All I'll say right now is same thing.
Okay.
You'll find out. You'll find out in a couple of days. Same thing.
Wow.
Okay.
And
yeah,
we
same thing. And the fact, and the one, he did a Q&A for, which was shocked me. He did a Q&A for one of the screenings, launch weeks down here. And I had Jerome Hill, the detective that helped me out. I had him go to the Q&A with Bosch to see if he was repentant, what kind of questions were asked, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And he went there, and he called me back, and he's like, yeah, it went like this, it went like that. And he goes, well, one of the questions that was asked of him when he was on stage, they said, how do you feel about injecting underage kids, little kids, when they're still developing with steroids and stuff? Now, parentheses, steroids made in a garage. We're not even talking about real steroids. We're talking about shit somebody mixes in a can.
Yeah.
Okay? He's like, well, I feel bad about it. And somebody goes, well, what happens to them after you've done it? He said, this is him. Oh, don't worry. Their bodies go back to normal after they stop using. Well, that just goes to show you what a dumb shit this guy is. How the fuck do you know that? How do you know what happens to a kid when you inject him with garage-made steroids, you asshole? The fact that he tried to deflect it as, oh, I didn't do any real harm, means he has no real remorse for what he did. And then he turns around and says, oh, no. Some of the parents in this Q&A, and it's on film somewhere, oh, no. Some of these parents brought their kids to me because they wanted to get their kids off of steroids. They wanted to bring it down. Bullshit. I have the books. I know what the kids were taking. That's a flat out fucking lie. Trying to pawn it off on parents being bad with their kids. So they're going to bring their kids that are quote 13-year-old kid is hooked on steroids. Let me get this straight. You're trying to tell me that the 13-year-old kid hooked on steroids goes to you so you can take him off? Bullshit. That's a bullshit lie. Yeah. And the fact that he goes on and saying this stuff makes me mad.
Yeah.
So do I forgive the guy? Fuck no.
Yeah.
What could he do? He's going to have to do a whole lot. But he's going to have to peel back a bunch of layers of bullshit that I'm going to see right through that maybe other people don't.
Yeah. Do you
sorry
have
to
any
get fired up there? That guy fired. I'm sorry to get fired up. That guy fires me up.
No, I mean
that's what this podcast is for, man.
And you have
right.
every right to be fired up about it. And what you're saying is, it's legit. It's coming from the heart. And like I keep saying, at the end of the day, you walked out of this, and you got nothing out of it. Like you said, you've been in a hole for the past how many years now. And we're hoping that, with your Porter project and your Come Clean mission, I've been reading up on it a little bit, that this gets you out of there a little bit and puts you out in that spotlight.
Yeah, and you know what? And I appreciate you guys just for listening to me, because my biggest fault is my passion. I do. I get mad. I get passionate. I get very, very talkative. Sometimes I have diarrhea of the mouth. But hold on, I don't want the feedback. But when stuff like this, I didn't put my hand out. I don't want money. I don't want people to walk up and dump money in my lap and say, "Oh, here you go. Does that make it all better?" MLB tried to do that. People tried to hand me money the whole time, and I kept saying, "That's not what it's about. That's not what this whole thing's about." Mm-hmm. And people say, "Hey, why'd you do the movie? Did you get any money for it?" "No." "Oh, you're not making any money with it? You're an idiot." I'm like, I'm just not that guy. Yeah. Maybe I'm not the guy that stands there in front of the red carpet and gets J-Lo's and stuff. But hopefully one day, look, a grown man, a 25-year-old man or a 40-year-old man or a 50-year-old man wants to go to his local physician and say, "Hi, I can't get up in the bedroom. Can I have testosterone?" Sure, go for it, dude. Mm-hmm. But if all of a sudden I'm going to offer you $40 million or $400 million? Dude, don't take this. Well, then, dude, don't take it. And God damn it, don't inject 13 to 14-year-old boys with steroids. And I said this a long time ago. Let me ask you this, guys, Would you ever give a 12-year-old girl a boob job?
No, absolutely. I
Ever.
have two daughters, 100% no.
Okay. Here's my question. Why?
Well, I don't think that she has the, to me it has to be their choice, one, and at that age I don't think they have the wherewithal
They haven't
to
developed.
know. Yeah, they haven't developed. They don't have the wherewithal to know what it is that they want. You know what I mean? And that's something that's life-changing. It's going to change you for the rest of your life. And they're just too young. You know what I mean? They're not fully developed yet.
And that's the thing. So when you have 13, 14, 15-year-old boys and you have coaches and parents saying you got to get bigger, you got to get stronger, and these guys haven't developed yet. Some of these guys haven't hit their growth spurt. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're pumping them with Adderall, HGH, 3 different types of testosterone. And that's the thing. And then other garage made stuff. And you're sitting going, oh, no, this is going to make them bigger and faster. So what are you doing to that kid's body? And the things that sucks about medicine is nobody knows. There is no test on, hey, let's take these lab rats and do this. But there's no placebo test of let's give these kids steroids and see what happens to them 10 years later. Mm-hmm. You have, it causes this, it causes that, it causes this. Well, you know what? To be honest, a lot of that is guesswork. Yeah. And when they say enlarged heart, that's because you have people like Lyle Alzado or other NFL players at 40 years old that pump 10 cc's of HGH a day into their system. But smaller amounts like this, you don't know what it does. So for some fake like Tony Bosch, you go, oh, don't worry, the body goes back to normal. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You don't know that.
Yeah.
So, I'm a nutritionist. I'm an expert. I went to medical school. Well, fuck you. I'll get a plane right now and go down to Belize and get a medical license in 2 weeks. Because apparently it doesn't take much.
Right. I have, so Porter, real quick, do you feel when you look back on this time, and I hate that we're spending so much time on this because I really do want to talk about Porter Project.
No, it's okay, and it's okay, and guess what? It's cathartic, and I said, we could talk about anything, and I'm the one bringing up most of this stuff, so keep going.
It's all good. Do you wish that maybe you hadn't been in this situation at all, or do you see it as a blessing in disguise in some way?
You know what? That's weird that you said that because somebody says, would you do anything different? And if the same situation happened, I really don't think I would have, because there was only 3 choices: walk away, get mad and beat up Bosch, or 3, figure out a way to ruin him. That's how this started. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, I saw something before. That's how this started. So would I have walked away? No, you just don't slap somebody in the face and take their money and say, what are you going to do about it? Mm-hmm. That's not me. So it wouldn't be a walk away. Beat him up? Yeah, I could have. But at the end of the day, who would have really paid the price for that? Me. Mm-hmm. I would have been the one going to jail. Doing what I did, I think it sends a much stronger message. Okay? Blessing in disguise? Yeah, I think in a way, maybe I'm meant for a bigger purpose. Maybe, if I can just be the voice of just a small little aspect. Guys, you got to watch out for people pretending to be doctors, parents, coaches. You got to take responsibility for your kids. You got to take a little bit of responsibility for how you teach them about competition and fair play and so on and so forth. Kids, guys, don't do this. And then somehow, some way, find somebody in this state or this legislation that wants to do the right thing and change these laws. Otherwise, what would, my dad says, what would prevent you from opening up your own clinic? And I said, Dad, because I'm not hypocritical. Why would I do that? But at the end of the day, if you could open up a shop, or you could teach some people the right way, the kids the right way, if you go to after schools and talk to kids and say, hey guys, not like Hulk Hogan, eat, pray, eat your vitamins, or whatever, but guys, compete the right way. Watch out for stuff that is dangerous for you, and just be informational. Then you know what? At the end of the day, it's worth it. You know, if I have to walk around and hide in bushes because every baseball player's cousin wants to hurt me because I ruined their career, or every steroid dealer in town wants to hurt me because they can't push the little kids, I'll take that.
Yep. So, Porter, I just want to say that I think it's refreshing to have someone that just wants to make a change and not trying to get anything out of it. So I just want to say thank you for that. And would you like to talk to us a little bit about the Porter Project?
Sure. And guess what? That means a lot to me, saying that. Real quick, there's a person that follows me on Instagram that I posted something, and he wrote back to me on Instagram and said, just want to let you know that I read your post. And it was something just as simple as, you know, stay clean, so stuff like that. And he goes, and I read your post, and I had another conversation with my son, who's a young athlete doing judo, about the dangers of steroids. And it was something as simple as that. If I can make a difference in one person's life, that's great. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
And also, I mean, regardless if you felt that the movie did anything wrong, or in some cases it's some things right, I'm happy. I was gonna say I'm glad that you did the movie, because it was I feel like it was one of the best movies I've ever seen that was just a documentary, and you know, I'm glad that I got to look at the different perspectives of everything that went down, because I remember when it was happening, I felt like I was in the dark about a lot of things. So.
No, and then look, and I said, Billy and Alfred and David, all the people at Raconteur did a great job. The kid actors were fantastic. I'm unbelievably happy to be involved with this. And just by being in it actually propels me a couple steps, just like talking to you guys, that people might want to talk to me. And it might give me the platform to make a difference. It is a certain perspective. And I think down the road, there's more to be told. In a little bit more of an adult way.
Yeah.
You know, because there's different perspectives and there's different things that you just can't really portray with kids. And I understand that, but I'm unbelievably happy to be involved with the project. And I think the guys at Raconteur did a great job.
So tell us a little bit about Porter Project. What's I looked into it a little bit. What's the Come Clean mission? What is your goal with the Porter Project?
Well, at the time when I launched this, and it was actually, I was thinking about it in the winter of 2013, because I was sitting up and by myself going, how do you put a silver lining on this whole crazy thing? The world's falling apart. How do you make a silver lining out of this? And I said, well, how do you just tell people your story? What's more important? You know what? If there's some way I can just try and educate kids about the dangers of steroids and the dangers of people like Mosh, you know, and that you shouldn't be doing this at a certain age, you know, just like teen alcohol, so on and so forth. I said, I think there's a message here. So I started to work on it, and I'm doing this solo. I'm going, okay, well, let me see. I need to come up with a name. What's a catchy name? Porter Project. That's kind of catchy, you know? So I went with that. And I opened up a website. Didn't know how to promote it. Didn't know how to do this. But the whole mission statement was to keep young and developing athletes aware of the dangers and away from steroids. And the theme just kept coming up. Come clean. Hey, you know, if this person did it, he should come clean. And I kept hearing it. Well, if this person's guilty, they should just come clean. And I go, you know what? That has a whole lot more repercussions than just admitting to a crime. It means, hey, if you're going to play a sport, come clean to your sport. If you're going to be in a relationship, come clean to your relationship. Let the person know all about you. Don't have any secrets. Don't have any skeletons in the closet. And so I really started just saying, you know what, that's kind of catchy. I'll try and do that. But then it's not the only anti-steroid youth program out there. And Taylor Hooten Foundation does a great job with what they do, but there's little tiny differences. You know, they do a fantastic job, and I mimicked a lot of stuff on what they do, but I had a little different message. Clean justice is something. I was talking to a reporter, and they said, "What would you like to really do?" Like, "Oh, biogenesis. How could it possibly happen in Miami?" And I said, "Biogenesis? Biogenesis is in every city in the country. There's a biogenesis in your backyard, and there's other people out there that know about it. There's other people out there that know about fake doctors or clinics or local athletes going to a certain place or high school athletes going to a certain place. Everybody knows about it. Just because I exposed it doesn't mean this is the only place." And he was like, "Whoa, how do you find out?" And I'm like, "You know what? If I'm already the whistleblower, I'm already the rat, then people can contact me and tell me about their biogenesis in their city, whether it's Kansas City, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Spokane, Washington. They can come tell me about what they know and what they've seen, and I'll bring it to their local authority. You guys can stay quiet. You guys don't need the press. You don't need the danger. You don't need to be called this on. I'll be the whistleblower. If I become the Walsh of America's Most Wanted, if I'm doing that for illegal steroid clinics, then maybe that's my calling." And the guy from the reporting was like, "I've never heard of that before. That's pretty interesting." I'm like, "Yeah." So if I can stand up, you see all these guys stand up and ask for, changes in laws and kind of legislation. I should stand up in front there and say, "Hey guys, this is what needs to happen."
That's a good way to look at it.
It is. I gotta say, it is unusual. I've never heard of something like that, but I mean, it works. I mean, if you're willing to be the guy to put the word out there, I mean, more power to you. Are you afraid that maybe you get a tip on something and it involves a dangerous group of people? Do you fear for your life in any way, shape, or form? You know what I mean? Or are you okay just taking the hit?
Well, here's the thing. I should probably fear more than I do. Okay. There was a time where I was scared to go all over anywhere, always carried a gun, locked and loaded, so on and so forth. But I have a gun at every door. My security's this, on every single aspect. You got cameras here, cameras there. And then to my own fault, and thanks for bringing it up, I've gotten comfortable. Mm-hmm. I've gotten comfortable back in my own surroundings. And I keep having to remind myself that things happen when people least expect it. Yeah. And there's going to be a ramp up pretty soon of activity. Am I going to have to be more aware? Sure. But at the end of the day, if somebody calls me from Orlando and says, "Hey, I know of this place," I'll ask the questions that I know that they're important. I'll be like, "How do you know this place? How do you know this person? What's the address? What have you witnessed?" So and so. What? Guess what? Your name is John Doe. And I'll call up the Orlando Police Department and say, "Hey, I've got a tip." And I'll hold them accountable. I'll hold people accountable for tips and action, which is what I think doesn't happen now. Mm-hmm. And if I have to embarrass them on social media, saying, "Hi, I provided this to the Orlando Police Department," I'm only using them as an example, and they've done absolutely nothing. Well, you know what? Maybe these guys won't get funding they need. Maybe they'll get pressure from another publication saying, this guy's out there risking his neck and you guys aren't doing shit. Yeah. So again, it hasn't been done. Maybe that is my calling. I don't want to hang myself on a cross, but
Yeah.
I mean, this would be something that would be powerful. I don't know if this would ever happen in a million years, but it would be amazing if it did. Is if you ever started a podcast, which you said you were thinking about it.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah.
If some athlete, who's fallen, who has tested positive for steroids or something or whatever, would come on and just come clean with you on that would be extremely powerful, I think.
Well, that's one of the things I always thought. I was like, you know what? I talked to an ex-NFL player who I have a relationship with because I know his wife and I've known her for years. I wanted to do something with him. And here's where you went into the backstory stuff. He said, "Look, man, I'd love to. I love you. I support you to you're trying to do, but I can't." I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because of my pension." I go, how would that affect your pension? And he goes, you have no idea. Sometimes when you shake a lot of trees, a lot of apples fall. Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
So, and I'm like, you're telling me you don't want to speak out against this because you think there'll be retaliation behind the scenes for your pension? He's like, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's I'm not a big fan of Curt Schilling's political beliefs, right? On the field, I think he's unbelievable. Really appreciated what he did in the World Series. But I gotta admire the balls this guy has.
Yeah.
On Twitter, he just says whatever,
Oh my God, yeah.
And sometimes I'm like scratching my head, going, "Oh my God, Kurt, what are you saying?" But I would love to know if he ever fears or has received any repercussions for the stuff he says. But I don't know that he's ever spoken out against the game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I said to Manny when I first talked to him, I don't want what I say to affect your relationship with MLB, sponsor, fan-sided or anything like that, because baseball hates my guts. If Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred were really honestly cared about the steroid problem, then they wouldn't have tried to sweep biogenesis under the rug, which is exactly what they tried to do.
Yep.
And there would have been more suspensions. They would have voiced that, and they would have turned over the evidence that they bought back to the local authorities so proper, legal action could be taken. But they didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
They're not going to be a fan that I said that, but, I'm sorry, that's the way it is.
Without naming any names, we it would be amazing to have a name, but you don't have to name a name. That's not what we're here for. Aside from the guys that took a fall from the biogenesis thing, were there other players on there that we don't know about?
Yes.
Okay.
Unequivocally, yes.
From all sports, or just Major League Baseball?
Well, there's other names from sports that were mentioned but weren't highlighted. There's other ball players, Major League ball players, that were in the books that weren't mentioned in the original 13 players because they were in the second round of books.
Gotcha.
Okay. And there's other names that are out there. My only problem is when somebody says, "Can you give me a name?" After what I just experienced, my question is why?
No, of course not. That's why
there was no difference. Nobody made a difference. Nobody made an arrest. Nobody didn't. The only thing that happened is people wrote stories and they got awards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People got feed for tomorrow's paper, but nothing really happened. Right. So I would rather call up an athlete and say, "Hey, I know what you did. I've got the proof. You need to change your tune. Right. Change it, or I'll change it for you."
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what does it serve to know exactly who? You know what I mean? Who was doing what? The point of the whole matter is that this operation was, our law enforcement officers were involved in this operation. The kids, like you said, were involved in this operation. That should be what our focus is on,
And that's the thing. There was judges, and all of a sudden, somebody gets 4-year sentence, but it gets cut down to less than 18 months because baseball basically manipulated, going, "Well, here, let me do this, let me do that," and they basically puppeted the entire judicial system of Florida and the DEA and the Department of Justice to make sure that Tony Bosch served the least amount of time possible. And that was all cut short. Even the whole, he got 4 years. That was a play. That was nothing more than an acting job by everybody involved. We gave him a strict sentence. Nobody was going to know that he got out in 13 months.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
When somebody doesn't learn from their lessons, or somebody doesn't learn their lessons, round 2 comes around. And when round 2 comes around, we're going to see how the judicial system acts this time.
You mentioned earlier, I just want to get this out of the way because Billy Corbin, we spoke to Billy on the podcast yesterday. The episode is going to drop tomorrow. he mentioned that and you mentioned it too, that one of the things that he wished he could have put in the film was this car chase.
Right.
What resulted from that? Like what was that all about, and what resulted from that whole situation?
Well, basically what it was is it was and that's the thing. A reporter from I didn't know who it was. It later came to my attention from one of the reporters from the Miami Herald what the organization was, but it was I thought it was one person. It was actually 3 cars.
Okay.
It was a private investigation firm tracking me. And that's the first time I really got into a situation where I changed everything I went to. I didn't go to the same places. I backtracked where I parked my car. I'd hop. There was a construction site behind my house. I would hop over my fence, to get to my house. Well, through weird circumstances, my dog got out one day. And I went on the neighborhood like 7 o'clock in the morning to find my dog. And I found my dog, and I was walking them back. And all of a sudden I see this car parked on the corner. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'd already gotten reports from other people saying so-and-so came by looking for you. So-and-so came by and flashed a badge. So-and-so said they were FBI. Somebody said this and that. And so I just told everybody, you haven't seen me. Don't talk to them. They couldn't really track where I was because I was living in a guest house. So every time somebody came up to the main house, they'd knock at the front door. I was safe and sound in a guest house near the back. Well, this is the first time anybody ever really saw me. So got my dog back in the house, and I was like, okay, I got to run errands. And I had to go somewhere, so I hopped the fence, did this, that, so on and so forth. And I was coming back, and I noticed this car was following me. So made a couple turns here, so and so. The car was following me. So now I kind of speed it up, and it turned into one of those kind of cat and mouse games where you're driving around, you're shooting into people's driveways, they drive by, you back out, so on and so forth. But then all of a sudden, there was another car that I started backing out. The car slammed on the brakes. I didn't know who these guys were, and to be honest, I didn't know if they meant me. That was it. They were going to shoot me. I didn't know who these guys were. They weren't identifying themselves. There were no sirens. Nobody was honking, but these guys wanted me. So I got scared. So I'm driving down the road, and the speed started escalating. And what's weird is because this was right about the time school lets out in South Dade. So I'm going, it's 35 miles an hour. I'm basically going about 80 with this car weaving in and out of traffic, going on the side of the road, zipping through, just basically gunning it right through kids crossing the crosswalk. And these guys are on me, won't let up. Now I can't lose them. I can't shake them. So I did some creative maneuvering, and I finally lost them for a second, parked behind a doctor's office, didn't know who else to call. So I called Pete Carbone. And I called him. I said, do you have people following me? He's like, no. I said, no bullshit. You send people after me? Because I thought maybe he had sent people. He's like, no, it's not me. I said, he goes, why? I said, because I'm being chased. He goes, who are they? I have no idea. He goes, come pick me up. I go, I can't, and it's going to get, I don't want to be, it's a long story, but we met at a certain place. I jumped in his car. We went around. We tracked one of the guys. He didn't know who we were because we were in a different car. Pete jumps out, pulls the guy out of the car. The guy freaks out. Somebody else, one of the security guards at where we're at, says something. We jump in the car. It was a crazy kind of situation, but it ended up with me bailing out and going through people's backyards to where I had my bike. The same one I rode in the whole ESPN thing. I had my bike next to a fruit stand that I kept it there. I jumped on the bike and rode around the canal and basically watched Pete Carbone deal with the cops that stopped the whole situation and the 3 private eyes on crossing a busy crosswalk. And I'm hiding in the bushes basically. And a cop comes by and passes me and asks me what I'm doing. I told him I was just taking a piss. He said, okay, great. And kept on going on. So I'm hiding this whole thing. And then Pete calls me up and he's like, where are you? I said, I'm watching it right now. And he's like, well, these cops are asking me this, that, and so on. Can you tell them that you saw this? And I'm like, no. And he goes, you're going to leave me hanging on this? I said, yeah, I am. But then after that, 2 weeks later, I moved. I moved locations. I didn't know what these guys meant. And I found out later that these guys were all PIs, and who they were hired by, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Even the Miami Herald didn't know.
Wow. I mean, I don't know how you got through all of this, you know, but I hope that things have.
Jerome, what really hurt? I mean, this whole thing, and again, Jerome, I love Jerome. I love Tim. Out of anybody, these guys, the only two people I can really consider friends. About 2 years after this happened, I was having a conversation with Jerome, and one of the girls from Minnesota that helped me kind of form this Porter project, her name was Tara Fenn, great person. Mm-hmm. He was telling blah blah blah. He goes, "Oh yeah, this." I said, "Yeah, but you know, the time you sent the FBI and they're banging on the side of the building, so on and so forth." And I had to call. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, we actually didn't expect you to be there." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We actually expected you to maybe be dead inside." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, nobody thought you were going to live." And he goes, I go, "So, bro, let me get this straight. Yeah, you got my documents and you needed this, needed that, and you sent me up there, but you really didn't think I was going to make it?" And he's like, "You know, Porter's just police work. You know, I did what I did to protect you, and I sent those people to protect you, but didn't think you were going to make it."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, thanks, dude."
Crazy, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you look and say, "Hey, do you fear?" Yeah, I do, but I don't know if that's the way to live my life. Should I just pack it up and move to Fort Myers? Should I run away to Belle Glade? Should I, do this and do that? I think I would have a whole lot more impact trying to talk about what I want to talk about in my own hometown at ground zero, right? Mm-hmm. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would up and leave and run away from the whole situation. And I gotta say, I commend you for staying there. It kind of shows the kind of person that you are. So,
Well, I am lucky that all my family members don't live in Miami anymore, and I'm not married and don't have kids. So I'm lucky in that. Maybe that would have changed my mind. But right now, it's just that, what am I going to get? Snitches get stitches. Well, you know what? If me exposing a con man who abuses kids makes me a snitch, then yeah, I'll own that. Yeah. Who wants to walk up and say, "Hi, I defend people like Mosh"?
Yeah. To me, when I think of a snitch, is more like someone who was, involved in it in a way that they too were doing their own fair share of dirt, and then so then they can save themselves, they snitch. So I don't really consider you. Yeah,
they walk up and they got pinched for something, and they walk and go, "Oh well, give me a deal." And again, a lot of things when people say snitches get stitches, I think that's all movie generated. I think it's people who grew up watching something like Godfather or Scarface or something like that. I think, and that, maybe that's why in the movie I keep being portrayed as a sucker. I still honestly believe that people have a good side of them. I'm the king of second and third chances, but I keep getting my face slapped. I keep getting proved wrong, which is extremely disheartening. So when people like yourself say, "Hey, thank you very much, this is great," so on and so forth, and I think you're making a difference. When somebody says on Instagram, "Hey, I talked to my son based on a picture you showed up," that just fuels the fire. That at the end of the day, if I had a debate with Tony Bosch face to face, what the fuck could he possibly say to me?
Yeah.
What would he say? "You're a piece of shit." Why? Because I exposed you? Yeah. There's no recourse for somebody like that. But you have to turn over the rocks. You have to, but what sucks is in Miami, especially Florida, especially Miami, God, there's so much dirt and corruption and this and that. Where do you start?
And I have to say, Porter, just really quick, in speaking to Billy yesterday and after watching the movie, I now that you're here, I'm gonna be frank and really honest with you. I felt like how did this guy get involved in this whole thing? Why did he handle it this way? So on and so forth. But in having you here today and in talking to you and in learning more about what you're about, I just have to say, I commend you and what you did took courage, and I don't know if I would have handled it the same way. And I just want to thank you for coming on the show and being candid with us and you know, speaking from the heart. And if there's anything you need, you know, you can be a guest here anytime you need help setting anything up with the podcast or anything like that. You know my number. Feel free to call. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, yeah, guys, that means a lot. And thank you very much for having me. You guys have been awesome. And hopefully we'll connect in the future. And again, you guys are doing a fantastic job. And thank you very much for letting me just voice my opinion. Everybody go out and see the movie. Go see the movie.
Yeah, definitely. Screwball. Right. It's out there, video on demand, and you can watch it in select theaters. Thanks again.
All right, everyone. That was our interview with Porter Fischer. Shout out to the Porter Project. That's actually his Twitter handle as well. You can follow him on Twitter, the Porter Project. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Music by VM Varga. Artwork by Luigi Gomez. I don't remember what his handles are these days because he changes it so often.
And a mystery.
Yeah, and that is the Welcome to the Show podcast for you.
Peace.
Peace out.